you get back a little farther, I can help pull. Yeah. Come on, come on.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Wild Westy.
And I'm Stank. You're watching Stank TV. Let's go riding.
Welcome back to Stank TV. Do we have an exciting one for you today? This is me on my STARK VARG at the last round in Iowa of Rolling Oaks. It was a mud fest. I rolled up last second with the STARK. And yeah, check this out. We get the whole shot. You're going to hear Colby Davis behind me in second on an old CR 252 stroke. He goes through 14 tear-offs in 4 miles behind me. It's absolutely a mud-slinging machine. And Nick Davis is behind me yelling at me. I got some cool footage in here. Make sure you guys check it out. Yeah, this was my first time leading in quite a while, but I ended up leading for the first 30 minutes because I thought that there was a rabbit, which by that I mean someone goes out ahead of you by like, say, 2.5 minutes, and the first person to catch them gets like a cash prize. I was told there was going to be one of those, but I don't really know what happened there, and so I ended up pushing real hard and using 45% of my battery on the first lap. But it's all good. I ripped, had a lot of fun, and I wouldn't have traded it or even brought my 350. I just had a lot of fun. So let's see how long the STARK will last. Enjoy this footage. Some people even make dirt bike noises as I go by them, which I think is hilarious. You're going to see how loose I am on the bike. I get squirrely a ton of times. This track was extremely slippery. Some of the time it was like ice skating, but you're going to see we get into some really muddy, nasty sections. But if you guys do like this content, make sure you subscribe to Stank TV. If you guys want to check out the full lap, I did already post the full lap of this. It's about an hour or so long, the footage I got. You're going to see a gnarly crash at the end of it, and some after race kind of talking. But overall, this track was sweet. Hopefully you guys check out that video if you want to see the entire lap and hear all the action that happens behind me without cutting it. I do have that out now, but as far as I know, you guys like these shorter commentated versions, so let me know in the comments if that's you, and subscribe, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I had the STARK turned down a little bit, but when I heard Colby kind of close up behind me, I would bump it up a little bit. Like in here, you can see I'm all the way back on the bike, and I'm just in not that high of a mode. My first mode I had, I believe, was 20. The second mode was 25. The next was 30. The next after that was 45. And then the fifth was 55 horsepower. It was so slippery, I think I only had the regen on all those at about 40%. Anything more than that and the rear tire would have definitely locked up and slid up. But there's some workers cheering us on going up the hill. I ended up having a pretty cool line to the inside on this hill here, but I almost crashed up here. Check this out. Yeah, that was super close. I don't really know what I hit. I think just a root at an angle, and me being the first one through, I couldn't really see it, and it ended up catching me, but luckily I caught myself and didn't go down. You're going to hear, possibly, depending on how it skips through, Colby Davis gets right behind me in some of these switchback sections, and then in other times I put a little bit of a gap on him. Like coming through here, you're going to hear how close he gets behind me, and you're going to see I get squirrely, like I said, so many times. And the STARK, it has okay traction control, but it's so easy to give it just that little bit too much and spin, even on the low horsepower mode. I am very grateful though that I did choose the STARK here, because not having a clutch made it so much easier when I had arm pump through some of these gnarly, nasty, slippery sections. Like, look at this, look how gross this is. Trash in my STARK. This is the muddiest conditions it's ever ridden in, but I mean, you can't have a dirt bike if you're not going to rip it. That's what I always say. And you saw back there, there's a tree down. That's how much rain and stuff they got. A tree has fallen. You can imagine I'm the first person through here, and at these Iowa races, there's about 400 bikes on the track at the same time for this adult race, and I'm the first one through here, so imagine what this looked like even after the first lap. It just gets absolutely chewed up, especially when it's a muddy race like this. and then the quads race after us, so by the time the weekend's over, the tracks are just completely destroyed. But that's part of woods racing and what makes it so much fun. Some of these sections that they did a little different this year had a lot of flow. Shout out Dayton and the crew. Rolling Oaks was a lot of fun. I just wish the weather was a little bit better. I ended up running up with on mode 3, I believe, most of the time, and then shifted up to 4 and 5 in some of these sections, especially when Nick Davis was right behind me, or Colby. And the reason, I just was trying to push to get that bunny, and I ended up going through about 10% of battery every 5 minutes. So I would have only gotten at most an hour-ish of ride time, and I ended up getting a little over an hour because I turned it down. I was running, later on you'll see, I was only running on 20 to 25 horsepower, just trying to save that battery life to finish 2 laps, and I barely make it. I mean, the bike was at 0% and it was beeping at me non-stop. But look at some of these new sections here. I had to get super close and personal to that tree. Maybe had a better line there, but I just missed it. Some of these sections were just super nasty. That's why I left them in here. And most people who raced, obviously by the time they got to this section, it looked completely different. I'm just trying to pick the best way up through these. And you can see not many people have been on some of these sections, so the leaves were covering a lot, and I'm just trying to follow those arrows and look ahead. You're gonna see coming through this section, I had a choice. I could have, after we cross right here, I could have gone to the right a little bit, right here, but I ended up taking this left line because I obviously didn't walk the track, so I wasn't quite sure how it all went through there. And I think I'm about to make a big mistake right here. Yeah, that allowed Colby to catch right up to me again, and I had to push hard and try to keep him behind me. And like I said, without having a clutch, it was a little bit easier to ride in that slick stuff, not having to worry about it, just keep my balance. I tried to keep the GoPro as clean as I could for you guys, and when I was in the zone and battling with Nick, it did get a little dirty, but you guys can still see pretty dang well, and my hands and everything were wet, so a couple times when I wiped it, of course it's still going to be like a little bit blurry, but it's really not that bad. You guys are going to enjoy this footage. Some of the stuff with Nick behind me, I do feel a little bad because he was yelling at me, but I'm in first place. He probably didn't realize that and thought that, you know, he got a bad start and was trying to catch the leader, not realizing I was the leader. So I didn't really feel that bad. I was just riding my own race, and then I ended up letting by in a field section. You'll see that coming up here in a little bit. Not quite yet though. Just casually picking my way through these trees, trying to find good lines, and important is just staying up, because one crash and I could lose a position or two, as you'll hear. Nick Davis ends up closing on Colby, gives him a lot of rev bombs and everything, and I think eventually Colby lets him by. But yeah, just listen to the background. It's crazy on the start. You can hear all the other bikes and really judge their positions based on yours. It's like as if you're able to look behind you the whole time and know where they're at. Here we go out onto the trail where the minis were. You can see mini quads were the last ones on this part of the track. Getting into some spectator areas. This is closer to parking. And yeah, so now we're on part of the mini track too. So it's a little slippery, but it's not as slimy as some of the other spots because the slick stuff on top has kind of been pushed and you have a burn. Also, you can hear that guy clapping when I just passed him. How weird is that? That's something you don't hear often. Tons of different line choices through there. That was really cool. You see those guys running now. If it was all electric bikes, they wouldn't have known where we were and wouldn't have came running, but they could hear the AA leaders come in, so they came sprinting.
So tired.
Coming out into a field section here. Now, I have really bad arm pump, but you're going to hear Nick Davis behind me really wanting to get by me. I'm just hugging the insides, riding smart, and holding my line. This section is super muddy, but the Stark made it easy. I was able to just kind of bulldoze right through it. And I kind of put a little bit of time behind Nick for a second here, but he ends up closing in at the end of this section. And it's because I make a little bit of a mistake, but I'll show you that. This section ended up being very nasty with that root. And all these roots, the ruts just get so deep, and the roots and rocks that show are crazy. But yeah, right here I put just a couple seconds on Nick behind me, and then he's about to close in a couple corners. You're gonna hear coming into this right-hander, I like hit my foot peg on a stump or something and almost go down. He must have had a better line there up to the right because he closed right in on me, and we're gonna get into some tight, nasty stuff where he's right on my butt, but he ends up crashing once or twice because you can just hear him disappear. But look how nasty this section was. And remind you, this is first lap. Like, check out how big these roots are that I just obviously went around. But some of this section is pretty dang gnarly. Look at these roots. At this moment, I believe he's right on me, and then you're going to hear he just disappears. I know you guys could have seen all those roots there. Those were pretty tricky. Not so bad for me, but I know for a lot of riders, that's just pretty technical riding, especially when it's slippery. But what do you guys think of that inside line there? I almost missed this nice inside line, but I just saw it. And then right here, Nick Davis is going to be kind of all over me. I was real close to sliding out there, and yeah, Nick is right behind me at this point. You can see me sliding all over the place. That's how slippery it was. And I still had pretty bad arm pump at this moment, so I'm just trying to hold Nick behind me and not crash. You're gonna hear him yelling at me, yelling my name, revving his bike. Again, sorry Nick, but I was also leading the race. If I was in like third or whatever, I get it. But I'm in first right now. I'm first on the track. So I think it's all fair game. Nobody's gonna let by somebody else at this point, so. You can see I come real close to hitting a couple trees here, and that's just because I'm pushing hard. I had a nice line here, but I'm just pushing hard and trying to keep it behind me. Getting a little squirrely, I'm not gonna lie. At this point, I already looked down and saw how much battery I went through, so I knew I could see I was about 30 minutes in. So I knew that there wasn't a bunny. I mean, if I'm 30 minutes in, I would have already caught someone. So I ended up deciding to let Nick by here. You're going to see I race hard, and then about midway through the corner, I look over and I give him a little nod to go by me. This section was pretty gnarly through here. Check out me and him take two different lines through here. I think my line was better, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. It got a little tight in there, some corner sketchy roots, but listen to his bike getting it in this field section. You know, if his KX450 was sounding like that through that field wide open, you know it was dragging some horsepower. But I take a peek over my shoulder and see Colby Davis still right there behind me. So the top three of us right now are all ripping through this muddy field section. And again, I did shift my bike down because I was already through almost 40 to 42% of my battery here, I believe, if I remember correctly. But like I was saying, the Stark doesn't have great traction control. So in these sections, the Stark really wanted to kick out and slide out real easily. So I was just trying to take it easy, and me and Colby battle hard right now. And he's on a older CR 252 stroke. So listen to this. This is a good battle. I almost cut back through here, and then I was like, I don't want to keep behind me already. He was behind me the whole beginning of the race, so I was like, whatever. He ended up taking his goggles off right here because he already went through all his tear-offs behind me. And I take a crappy line up this hill, and then Canito ends up hopping in right behind me, and just listen to him. He's just revving up a storm at me. And mind you, it's still super slippery. It's crazy that you can just hear the Stark slipping through all this section. You can hear the tire because it's so silent. But up here, you're going to see this stick off to the right. It ends up blowing off my roll-off canister. It's this stick on the right here. Yep, and then the film actually comes over and covers my mouth, and I'm not able to breathe, and I can barely see. So I end up having to take my goggles off right up here. But Canito's right behind me. Listen, he crashes. And then he was gone. But up here, I'm barely able to see right now, just trying not to crash, and watch how much roll-off comes out of my face. Yeah, that was all on my mouth, so I wasn't able to breathe or really see very well. So now we're coming out back to some of this parking area, and you're going to hear Canito caught back up to me, and he's right behind me right now. I end up stopping up here. Shout out to Westy for an amazing pit. She gives me goggles so freaking fast. This pit was actually really damn good, so check it out. She's out here on the right, and I'll let Canito by.
What percentage are you at?
50.
50?
55. Next lap.
Did you guys see your concentrated face there? Thanks, babe. I love you. And that was a great pit stop. Now I got some fresh vision, but these end up fogging up on me. And yeah, I end up ripping them off and giving them to Hunter Cleveland. Shout out to Hunter and the Bark Boys. So I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I'm just pushing hard, having fun. I did, like I said, turn the mode down to, this might have been 30 or 35 at this point in these sections, but I really just went down to 20 and 25. These field sections, though, were super slippery, and yeah, it's just good experience getting more feel for the Stark. This is actually the section I end up crashing in on the second lap, and it's part of my outro now for all my videos. But yeah, this section got pretty gnarly, and this was just the first lap, only a couple people through here. I'm having a hard time seeing, so I had to just pull a tear off, and you're going to see up here, I have another hard time seeing, and you hear me say, come on, I'm trying to pull off tear-offs.
I think I'm in 4th right now.
That's what that section just was, but we're closing in almost to the finish for the first lap, and you're going to see up here that Canito ends up hitting and I get around him again. This section was one of the better parts of the track. There were definitely a lot worse sections, a lot more muddy, a lot more technical, more roots, all of the above. But yeah, we're coming through this muddy section and then into a field where I'm going to be passing Canito. Call him Kickstart Kenny for real. Over there taking his bike after his pit. But yeah, just came through in 3rd place, but I ended up letting Kenny by right up here. I figured, I know he's in points and stuff, and I knew my bike wasn't going to make it for 3 laps. So I ended up letting him by and just ride behind him. I ended up staying pretty close to Kenny for a while. And then, like I said, I just turned my bike down, and some other people end up catching me, and I let them by. But I'm at like 20 or 25 horsepower, just making sure the bike gets 2 laps so I'm able to make it to my pit. But yeah, check this out. Me and Kenny staying pretty close. You can see I was just ice skating there, almost crashed a few times. You can see how gnarly some of these sections have gotten. Going through some of these sections with the spectators again. You just saw me pull a tear off. And here we go, this is like the beginning of the race again. This is right where the start came into the woods. Sorry that this is a little blurry. I did wipe it a few times, but because my hands are wet, it ended up staying a little blurry, but it does end up clearing up, so bear with me here. Did you guys hear that guy? He was doing dirt bike noises at me. That's so funny.
That guy was making dirt bike noises.
Coming through this straightaway again, and I have the bike turned down, so nothing too exciting, but they ended up cutting that section to the right and made it a little bit shorter. They must have had a lot of trouble with the C guys in that section. This section was a lot of fun. It had like some natural little jumps through it.
Fuck, bad line.
I ended up taking a bad line there, but you know, I wasn't really in it battling with anyone at that moment, so it wasn't a big deal. But you're gonna see how chewed up some of these spots really got, especially because this part is part where we've already gone through 2 laps now.
36%. I'm just running it on 20 horsepower now.
This track was overall pretty good. There's a lot of split lines, as you can see, which made it fun, and you weren't in the same rough stuff all the time.
That was so close. Holy shiz.
As you heard, I was super close to crashing right there. Luckily, I saved it. And right before that, my GoPro got snagged on a branch, but luckily I fell down and I felt that it was moved and I was able to fix it real quick. But as you see, I just had to take off my goggles. It was too blurry. And I just let by another AA rider. You can see that guy is just tired, leaving his bike for the worker to pick up. And I'm over here cutting my lines through the trees here, trying to make my way and stay close to Skylar in front of me. But again, I'm on like 25 horsepower, so nothing too crazy. And we're just cruising along, staying off the ground, and just trying to make it back to my pit to plug the bike in to charge it. You can see here, me and him had a pretty good flow. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, I just had a lot of fun. I'm having to scream and yell at all the lappers just so they know I'm coming, because I don't make any noise. Here we go, coming up next to that lapper, and he falls over into me. Luckily, just missed my leg, but his handlebar hit the back of my bike. I thought he was going to get wedged in there. Passing those lappers, making it look easy, I guess, and they're just off to the side, taking breaks. But here I'm coming up on a person with a 2-2. Check this out. Nice little section through here. You can see how much more nasty it is than the first lap. And I just got real squirrely there, trying to make my way by these lappers. Spectator pointed me to a nice line there. I just let by Bailey and Grant Marriott. I ended up staying behind them for quite a while.
I'm only in 20.
Nothing
so-
really exciting happened, so I didn't put too much footage of that in the video, but if you want to see any of that, it is in the original footage that I put out there. That's the raw GoPro of this race. Most lappers seem to get out of the way pretty good just by yelling with my voice. They don't really seem to need to hear the bike, just my voice gives them enough warning, and most of the time they move, as long as they can hear me, of course. Nice little line there around the, I guess, kind of outside of that lapper. Ben Bowens was behind me right here and ended up cross-running and getting squirrely there, and he just got around me. I had him behind me for a while, and I ended up staying pretty close to him. Again, I don't really add a ton of that footage into this, but if you're interested, check out the full video.
Hey, Hunter.
I just gave my goggles to Hunter Cleveland right there. Just coming up through, I'm still above 20% because you can see that box on my bars is green, but as soon as it drops under 20, it starts to lose some power.
No goggles.
This was that really muddy section I told you the start kind of bulldozes through. You can see all the people I'm passing through there, and look at how bad these roots got. The Stark really does well over stuff like that, especially with the Tusk Talon rear tire, the hybrid. It just grips those roots and stuff, but I almost just hit that tree. Do you guys see that?
Ice skating.
Again, through another nasty muddy section. It just looks like a completely different track than my first
go,
time
buddy.
through. And shout out to that worker, he was cheering me on. This is one of those sections where everyone was struggling, but then the AA guys come through and they're like, how did they make it look so easy? Well, I gotta say, the Stark definitely helps with that. If you guys are interested more about the Stark, I do have quite a few videos on my layout of the Stark, but check out this inside line here that I took the lap before. Got a little squirrely, but I still made it happen. And you can see now we're under 20% and my screen has turned red where it shows my
18,
battery,
baby.
meaning that
We're
I'm
gonna have
slowly
to
going
pit
to
on
start
this
losing
lap.
power.
Thank you.
Just came up on another lapper, made that pass, and just flowing. Until I almost just hit that tree. Look at how crazy this is. So close to hitting that tree. I was front tire slid towards it, just able to compensate with my left foot pressure on the pegs and tilt the bars and just miss that tree. That was super close. This is Logan behind me. I was gonna let him by a couple times and it just took him a second for him to realize what I was doing. But I just wasn't trying to hold anyone up. And again, I'm on 17%, so you can see I'm already dropping power. My girlfriend always tells me how impressive it is that I know to clean off the camera, obviously, when I can't see
So
it.
25 horsepower is almost enough to stay up with a 252 stroke. And these are the newer KTM ones, so it's not bad.
Let's be clear, I mean with these conditions
And
as
I'm
well,
under
because
20
it's very
battery
slippery,
right
so
now, so
power isn't a huge thing, so I'm able to
jump
run
between
this
these
thing pretty
trees,
well.
Yep. Yoo! Yoo-yoo! Thank you. Yoo! Yoo-yoo-yoo-yoo!
Some real nasty sections through here, but just making passes on the lappers. That guy had a little bit of a spill. You can see there's quite a few people, but these fields, you can see how deep they are and nasty, but I have a pretty good line through these trees. Not this part, but the second part. You can see I hit that tree there. That hurt. End up closing right back in on Logan, and I'm pretty much right behind him until I pit here and charge my bike up. Getting it in these fields wide open, but the bike just doesn't have much power at this point. Enough to get out of its own way, but it's just, you know, lower in power. And Logan crashed there. Gotcha, buddy. He ends up staying
10%.
behind me almost right until I pit. I think I let him by again. You can see all these lappers having trouble in these field sections. You just gotta find a rut, pick it, and carry your momentum. You just can't be notchy with it or use your brakes too much. You just gotta be smooth with it. Let the bike slide and be loose on it. Like through here, look, I'm power sliding most of this corner. Most of these corners are completely blown out like you saw there. All the stakes are gone, but you still try to retain about the same relative shape to the track without cutting it too straight. I end up having to go back on this crappy line again, but I tried to make my own little line through here that was a little bit less out of the way. You saw I hit a little slick spot and almost slid out there. That spectator I don't think really heard me coming because they were pretty much in the track, but we're going to be coming down this hill here, and look how sideways I get. I hit this slate and it was almost like glass. Yeah, I got pretty sideways, but I end up letting Logan back by here. Ended up going right by our pit, off to the right there, and then where I'm pitting is up here, not too far ahead. You're gonna see here my bike says 0% and it's gonna be beeping at us, and yeah, I literally barely make it. Going up this hill, I end up losing power. This is wide open, by the way, so just something to stay in the back of your head of if you do have a Stark is when it says 0, you don't have much time left. Like, listen to this thing, it's gonna start beeping bad. I'm just trying to coast as much as I can.
She did, I barely made it.
And I just barely made it to my pit. Then you're gonna see here, I need to get a better generator. I wasn't able to charge very much in like the 20 whatever minutes I was charging, but I ended up charging back up to 24% like you saw. Here's me putting it all back together, and Bailey going by right now.
That's Bailey.
So I ended up hitting for about almost 30 minutes, so I'm just going out. The leaders already went by just to finish my second lap. You're going to see here I pop a wheelie and have some fun finishing this race out. Passing a few mini riders as well, as you're going to see. But believe it or not, Logan Kraus ended up being right behind me. That's the two-stroke you're going to hear here in a second. And it's just funny, he ends up seeing me crash, and we talk about it after the race. Make sure you listen to the post-race interviews with some of the guys. They're freaking hilarious. Here's another mini rider here, let me by. I think some of these sections were a little bit better this time around than the first lap because there ended up being some more ruts and we got down into some drier dirt, but yeah, I ended up getting by this lapper here too, just speeding by them. I just get worried on the start that they're not going to hear me, but so far it seems to be okay as long as I yell. I actually just bought a horn for my bike for when I'm on a moto track just practicing so people can hear me better. As you see by the red bar on my screen on the Stark phone, I'm already below 20%. But right up here, this is the corner I end up crashing in. Check this thing out. What a stupid decision. I end up hitting my rear brake while sliding out. And then at this point, my camera's completely covered with a lot of mud, so are my hands. I wipe it a few times, but
Come on.
there I am pulling some tear-offs, and you could hear me say, come on. And even when I finish the race, I still have 2 tear-offs hanging off my goggles. You can see that rider had a little bit of worse luck than I did, but I almost hit those trees, and then we're coming in here to the finish, and listen to these post-race interviews. The first up is Logan. He was so happy I crashed, but he didn't realize I was a lap down.
I'm so glad you went down that turn. I was trying.
Well, I'm not. You were a lap ahead.
Oh.
I stopped and just was charging.
Oh.
You saw me eat shit in that corner, dude? I accidentally hit the rear brake as I was sliding.
Yeah.
Track was pretty good for being so nasty.
It was. Was your bike smoking? Yeah, I popped my radiator.
Good job, dude.
Rolling up to Scott Gardner
I
next.
pitted. I only got 2 laps because of it. Dude, they didn't put a rabbit out there.
Colby
I thought they
Davis
were
is the
gonna
next
put a
one that
rabbit to chase.
comes over
I
to
was
me, and his
leading,
reaction
like,
is hilarious
over
in the start.
3/4 of the first lap, so I kicked it up and was just ripping.
Nice.
Nick Davis right on me like pissed. And there wasn't a rabbit.
I don't know what happened. Because it said I got second and I didn't. So I must have caught somewhere. I don't know. But I don't remember it. I don't know.
Oh well. Track was decent though for what it was.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah. I just ate shit in the one field section.
How many laps did you do?
3. Well, 2, but everyone did 3.
Everyone did 3, right? Yeah.
They were like 35+ minute laps.
Huh. I must have stirred up something.
I thought I was about to see a fight right here, but luckily no fists were thrown, just a couple punches at the bar pad.
Were you the one behind me?
Dude, that thing was so fucking gnarly. I was getting blasted. I went for 14 tear-offs.
Oh shit, dude. I heard you yell at the worker, goddamn electric bike or something.
Like, goddamn evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you end up? Did you finish? Nice, nice.
This kid down here.
The Stark made it about an hour and a half of ride time. A little bit less. Need to get a generator that will allow it to full charge at 3.3 kilowatts, but bike got absolutely trashed. But what's the point of having a dirt bike if it doesn't get dirty? Right, Storm? No, don't eat it. No, don't eat it. Storm, don't eat it. Good girl. If you get back a little farther, I can